Breaking news. Schengen is dead blasts French eurosceptic in fierce attack on Macron. French President Emmanuel Macron is clinging onto a Schengen system that is already dead, French conservative Nicolas Dupont-Aignan said on Thursday, referring to the European Union's controversial system of open borders. The populist Italian government's decision to turn away humanitarian rescue ships and calls for greater solidarity have exposed deep divisions among EU states on migration. It is the end of Schengen. National borders are finally being re-established, but not without chaos. We must reimpose national border controls and boost European cooperation to send migrants back to their home country, the head of France's Souverainist About Law France, Stand Up France, party told the Daily L'Opinion. France must pull out of the Schengen agreement and focus on turning Europe into a cohesive community of free nations, he added. The Schengen area allows EU citizens and tourists to travel across 26 EU states without being subjected to border checks. The passport-free system, however, has come under intense criticism in recent years after it was found that both illegal immigrants and terrorists had been able to travel freely across the bloc. Mr. Dupont-Aignan added that Mr. Macron, a staunch Europhile, had ridiculed himself at an EU summit in Brussels last week, which was dominated by the thorny issue of migration. Emmanuel Macron ridiculed himself because international leaders know that his immigration and asylum policy isn't working, he said, adding that EU leaders had reached a false agreement on migration at the summit. EU leaders finally reached a deal on migration after hours of stormy talks, agreeing to share out refugees arriving in the bloc on a voluntary basis and create controlled centers inside the EU to process asylum requests. They also agreed to share responsibility for migrants rescued at sea, a key demand of Italy's new Prime Minister, Giuseppe Conte. Mr. Conte, whose government is made up of members of the anti-establishment Five Star Movement and far-right League, refused to endorse a summit text on security and trade until other EU leaders had promised to help Italy, which is at the forefront of the crisis, manage migrant arrivals. Less than 45,000 migrants landed on EU shores this year, according to UN data, a sharp drop from 2015 when many thousands were entering the bloc on a daily basis. But the political tremors are still being felt across Europe, with populist, anti-immigrant parties on the rise in many countries.